You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely. Good morning. Good morning. Hello and welcome to Cannabis Educational News with News Hawks, Cindy and Glenn. We are live here at the Legacy420.com news desk, and we are live on the Facebook networks as well, YouTube, Twitter, Boxcast locations, and of course on paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning. I love the intro.
Yeah, the intro is really great. And of course, then I stuck up one of our little information videos after that, because we have been nominated for an award. The best podcast in the cannabis industry, of course, through CanExpo. And you can go to canexpo.ca daily, and you can vote daily. All you have to do is go there. There's a drop-down icon in the right corner, and you can just go to the voting section and throw in your votes for all the different sections that there are. It's pretty awesome, and we appreciate your time in doing so. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How is Costa Rica?
Costa Rica is awesome. Very, very warm. Very warm.
Very
was
warm.
35 or so, 36 yesterday.
35, 36. But now you have a pool outside your door to go jump into.
We do. It's lukewarm pool, but it's a great pool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We've got 8 stories. I was almost going to go back to old RR days and say 10 stories, but we have 8 stories coming to you this morning. So we might as well just jump right into it. We're heading over first to StratCan. Over there, we are learning that advocates are concerned with lack of separate medical cannabis review.
And advocates with a prominent medical cannabis organization say they are concerned with Health Canada is going back on their past commitment to undertake a review of the country's medical cannabis access program in the wake of legalization. Instead, they say the review appears to be wrapped into a currently ongoing review of the Cannabis Act, which came into force October 2018, itself nearly a year behind schedule.
Yeah, the concerns, say several advocates who have long focused on the legal medical cannabis framework in Canada, is that members of the current panel in charge of the review of the Cannabis Act do not seem to understand the nuances of medical cannabis in Canada. When Canada legalized cannabis for non-medical purposes in 2018, the federal government, at the recommendation of its expert task force, maintained the separate medical access program. That same task force also called for an evaluation on that medical access framework within 5 years following legalization.
And the government further affirmed that commitment in a House of Commons Health Committee meeting in 2017, although notably did not mention a separate review of medical, but only of a more general review after 5 years. The expert panel, announced in late 2022, has been taking meetings with numerous cannabis advocates and industry experts in the last few months, with a goal of tabling a report to the overall on the overall cannabis impact of the Cannabis Act on the Canadian society by the spring of 2024.
I know one of those advocates. Ted Smith has been invited. Jonathan Zayed, the vice chairperson of Medical Cannabis Canada, MCC, a national nonprofit cannabis patient advocacy organization, which was formerly CFAM, founded in 2014, says he and his colleagues were surprised to hear from the panel recently that it was taking on the medical side of the review as well. It's extremely concerning that Health Canada has quietly canceled the dedicated 5-year review of medical cannabis after multiple promises on record that it would be conducted. Patients expected and deserve a dedicated review, and with a more diverse panel that has patient representation and healthcare expertise.
The dedicated 5-year review was anticipated by stakeholders that differ from the recreational market, including patients, nonprofits, and authorizing healthcare providers, all of whom are now caught surprised that the dedicated medical review is canceled. He continued in a message to StratCan. Moreover, given the composition of the current review panel does not include patient representation, it is incumbent upon Health Canada to add further patient expertise to the current panel.
There are a couple of messages here that you can read if you want. Deepak Anand, the vice chairman of MCC, says he's concerned because he feels the membership of the current expert panel for the review of the Act is not informed about medical cannabis in Canada and could potentially have a bias against the program and even the concept of cannabis for medical purposes. Obviously, we would like to see a separate review take place for medical cannabis because we don't believe the existing panel is qualified enough to understand the various nuances of the program or the reasons why patients are choosing to access medical cannabis, and even why medical cannabis currently exists, how it came about, and why it's important for the future.
And although Anand says he's not sure what the intention is behind combining these two reviews, the idea is that this could bode poorly for a separate medical system concerns him. The risk is that it be dismantled completely is present, and I would say needs a dedicated panel of experts to review it, not one that might be doing this on the side of their desk and under the very different scenario that is the legalization of non-medical cannabis.
StratCan reached out to Health Canada for comment on the issue, asking if they still intended to undertake a separate review for medical cannabis. In response, a representative for the Federal Health Agency did not directly address the question, of course, but noted that the legislative review of the Cannabis Act offers an opportunity to assess the program towards achieving the goals of the Act and to help ensure that the legislative framework is meeting the needs and expectations of Canadians. An expert panel is leading the review and will provide independent expert advice to both ministers on progress made towards achieving the Act's objectives and will help identify priority areas for improving the functioning of the legalization. I mean, I get that he's giving the political answer, but again, like I said earlier, I know one of the people that have been invited on the medical side to come to that review on behalf of medical patients, and that is Ted Smith. He announced that on his Facebook page here, in the last week or so. And with Ted Smith going, he's a loud force to be reckoned with. I feel quite confident having him represent us there. Nice.
Okay. I don't know the fella, but definitely have to have some kind of representation for patients.
Mm-hmm. Yep. One of the key areas of focus the panel will be exploring is the impact of legalization and regulation of cannabis on access to cannabis for medical purposes.
The health agency's representatives also did not directly respond to a question about any possible intention that they might have to dismantle the medical cannabis program, but noted that any regulatory changes to the Cannabis Act or regulations as a result of the review would be pre-published in the Canadian Gazette, Part 1, for further public consultation in accordance with the Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat's cabinet directive on regulation before regulatory changes are finalized. Health Canada has listed no proposed changes to medical cannabis regulations within its forward regulatory plan for 22 to 24.
Ashley Brown, another board member at Medical Cannabis Canada, echoes her fellow board members' concerns about the need for an independent review of the medical cannabis program. The decision to forego a 5-year review of the medical cannabis system in Canada comes as a shock to myself and so many other patients. brown towel scrat can. We have been holding on since legalization in the hopes that the medical cannabis access would be carefully examined and thoughtfully reformed to address the critical issue that patients face. Canada has never truly recognized cannabis as a medicine with a dedicated system of access. The current regulations are a patchwork of guidelines and practices that are byproducts of hard-fought court cases, again, of wonderful people at West, not deliberate and intentional legalization or legislation. And that's true. I mean, Owen Smith and Neil Allard won rights for us years ago. 2015, Smith won. Allard was just before that, if I'm remembering correctly. And that was supposed to give patients easy access to cannabis. And legalization came from that. But we haven't really still, patients haven't been given completely what Smith won for us. Yeah. And I think that's just wrong.
They've been fighting it since the court decision.
Yeah. And we're still going to fight it for a while.
Yep. By foregoing a 5-year review of the current framework, we are once again sending the message that the medicine of hundreds of thousands of Canadians rely on for relief, symptom control, and quality of life is an inconvenience to the federal government and not a valid or important therapeutic option. The stigma is pervasive, and it begins and ends with policy. The current review of the Cannabis Act is a massive undertaking, and I respect the work that the Ministry of Health and the independent panel are putting into this public consultation and review. The scope is broad and the task is unprecedented. The impact of legalization on public health warrants this level of swift and thorough consideration.
However, public health isn't healthcare. Medical cannabis is healthcare, and it warrants the separate review that the legalization task force recommended and the Minister of Health accepted. As advocates, we have been told over and over that the separate review was the opportunity to make meaningful changes in the medical cannabis system of access. It was also the reason that the system was left relatively untouched in 2018. We were told that change would come once the dust settled on legalization. I hope that the Ministry of Health will consider their decision and work with patient advocates and allies to design a separate regulatory review with a transparent, reasonable engagement plan that acknowledges. By the jumpins, I had somebody messaged and my attention went. I apologize. Reasonable engagement plan that acknowledges the real barriers we face. We don't have the funds, the time, or the privilege to move at the pace that other stakeholders can. We are tired, but we are still here. I want to make sure that patients aren't a casualty of policy yet again, and that Canada learns from decades of lived experience of people with illnesses and disability. Affordable, reasonable, inclusive access begins with the recognition that medical cannabis is healthcare, and access to healthcare is a fundamental right that we can work together to protect and improve upon. It isn't too late. Amen. I apologize. I am over here clicking buttons and I went silent. We're going to head over to story number 2, which is coming to us from the Globe and Mail. We're going to learn that Ontario's frantic cannabis shop expansion fizzles out.
3 years after the Ontario government threw open the doors to retail pot shops and sparked a boom in retail, and a single new store opened its doors to the public. It is the latest sign that a reckoning may be to an industry where expectations outpace the market for legal cannabis.
Yeah. In January 2020, the Ontario government created an open licensing system for pot stores to replace the controversial lottery that existed before. That set off a flurry of store openings. The pace of expansion peaked in July 2021 when 110 new stores opened in that month. Holy wow. Then slowed dramatically last year, according to Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario figures. As of last month, Ontario had 1,600 cannabis stores in operation.
Observers had long expected a shakeout. citing a glut in some markets that has helped push down prices for legal cannabis products and hurt margins. Yet while more than 110 pot shops shut their doors last year, the pace of closings has also dropped off. Fears about market saturation have not been enough to deter new entrants. As of last week, more than a dozen applications for new cannabis store licenses in Ontario were at the public review stage.
Well, that's great. And I'm hoping that it's in more obscure areas, simply because it's the more obscure areas that need the help with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And although driving through Ontario last year, I did learn that there are some, I did go through some places where, I was driving probably an hour and there wasn't a single one. So I'm hoping that maybe some of those holes will be filled in. Fingers crossed.
I think most of the stores want to open where there's a big population so they can make as much money as they can. But unfortunately, those places are full.
Yeah, there's already 100 stores there. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but we'll have to watch it and see. We are heading over to Mugglehead Magazine. SNDL cuts 85 jobs from Olds production facility to save $9 million.
SNDL Incorporated has cut off approximately 85 jobs from its Olds facility as a part of a cost-saving strategy that will save the company around $9 million from labor and operational costs. On Monday, the company said the transaction with the Valens Company Incorporated has accelerated the need to optimize SNDL's manufacturing and operational footprint to address market saturation and oversupply.
SNDL Olds operation is among the largest employers in the town, where approximately 9,000 people live. The Olds facility was inaugurated in 2018. We have made the difficult decision to materially reduce staffing and activity levels in Olds, Alberta, in order to improve the efficiency of our operations as one of Canada's largest adult use cannabis manufacturers, SNDL CEO Zach George said in a statement. With the Olds facility.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
With the Olds facility already in operation when I joined SNDL, I am proud of the cultivation capabilities and high quality flower that our teams have developed and produced. Due to much supply and unused products, high quality flowers are being sold at prices lower than the cost of production, he explained. The company plans to use existing biomass to improve its costs and profits in the pricing environment.
George said the company's approach to cultivation and manufacturing is adaptive to market changes and focused on providing excellent products at various price points. The company said the initiatives will help focus the facility on premium products and brands and is expected to help the company reach its savings target as a result of acquisition of Valens.
And SNDL will release its financial results from the year-end and fourth quarter by the end of March, and it expects to report record net revenue and net cash for the fourth quarter of last year. The company is the largest private alcohol and cannabis retailer in Canada, operating under the banners of Ace Liquor, Wine and Beyond, Liquor Depot, Valued by Spirit Leaf, and Superette.
Its cannabis brands include Top Leaf, Contraband, Citizen Stash, Sundial Cannabis, Palamento, among others. SNDL stock almost stayed flat, decreasing at 0.49% on Monday to $2.03 on the NASDAQ exchange.
The layoff news comes days after Canopy Growth Corporation announced cutting off around 800 positions from the closure of its Hershey Drive facility in Smith Falls, Ontario. The company aims to save 140 to 160 million over the next 12 months. Last year, Aurora Cannabis Incorporated announced the shutdown of its Aurora Sky Edmonton Airport facility to save money and laid off approximately 12% of its staff as part of a cost-saving reorganization strategy. Sounds like it's across the board trying to save a little money.
Yep, absolutely. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we are at the last story before break. It's one that caught my eye, and one that I can say I guess Facebook didn't like. It kind of red flagged me for it, but we're gonna read it anyway. Coming to us from the Psychedelics Spotlight. Vancouver company creates world's first ever ayahuasca pill.
And what do you get when you combine the mystical powers of ayahuasca with the convenience of a pill? That's right, soon there may be an even easier way to experience this ancient Amazonian ritual deep in your own soul. It looks like a pill and it tastes just like one, but this isn't your typical over-the-counter medication. Leading the charge is in natural drug development, Vancouver-based Filament Health is pioneering a breakthrough medical-grade ayahuasca pill.
This novel concept could potentially help individuals access an authentic ayahuasca experience without requiring a trip to South America. Well, you don't have to require a trip to South America to drink tea. You just have to know the right people. The company is on the brink of obtaining FDA authorization to initiate its pioneering phase 1 clinical trial for its ayahuasca pill. Well, you don't have to taste the tea anyway. With expectations that it will take place during the first 6 months of 2023. I volunteer.
The history of ayahuasca stretches back centuries throughout Central and South America, being used as a sacrament in ceremonies due to its powerful healing and visionary effects. The sacred brew has also recently gained traction among the rich and famous. From Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, countless manifestos towards psychedelic use, to Will Smith's surrendering experience, ayahuasca has increased in popularity.
With a large body of research demonstrating its potential therapeutic effects, ayahuasca has been identified as the possible treatment for an array of mental and physical illnesses, such as depression, suicidality, anxiety, trauma, grief, addiction, and substance use disorder, to even neurodegenerative diseases. As psychedelics become more of a commonplace discussion, and the manufacturing process for standardization of ayahuasca is only just beginning. It appears to be the perfect time to explore this topic.
And why go through the effort of creating an ayahuasca pill when we can already make and take traditional hallucinogenic tea at retreats in Brazil or Peru, as well as visit ayahuasca churches located around Canada and the USA? The answer lies in accessibility and consistency.
And not needing to taste it.
Oh, okay. Two crucial elements that are essential to exploring this powerful medicine. One of the major issues with administering ayahuasca is the traditional setting is that there is an extreme variability in how much people receive. This can lead to drastically different experiences for different people within the same ceremony, which makes it difficult to measure the effects and benefits of ayahuasca usage. Benjamin Lightburn, founder and CEO of Filament and a connoisseur in the Pharmabotanica, spoke to Benzinga around the details of plant extraction. He revealed that the amount of plants extracted, the different species used, and the strength of the extract, different people in the same ceremony received highly variable amounts of psychoactive substances. Sorry, I can't say that.
Well, that's interesting. I know a number of people that have gone and done these traditional things. It leaves me with a question for them.
So you were saying that it tastes terrible.
Well, yeah, it's a bunch of earthy stuff. It tastes like earth.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I may not have tasted it, but I know what earth tastes like. And from people telling me about this, it's just like when they're explaining how it tastes to me, like I just kind of go, bleh. So if we could dehydrate that and stuff it into a pill, so you're still getting the same medicine, I'd be down for that. Then I don't have to taste the earth. Anyway, by creating an ayahuasca pill and standardizing dosing protocols, researchers hope to create a more consistent experience with predictable effects. You can never predict the effects of psychedelics, dude. So they can study its therapeutic potential more accurately. If you have the goal of further researching areas such as post-traumatic stress disorder, depression and anxiety, a clinical trial that is essential. Through this type of study, it is possible to give participants precise doses over multiple weeks or months with follow-up questionnaires and assessments to monitor progress over time. Creating an ayahuasca pill could make this kind of research possible. Another benefit of creating an ayahuasca pill would be that it could make treatment more accessible for those who cannot travel to South America for traditional ceremonies. Again, all kinds of shamans here in Canada, or don't have access to traditional healers who administer ayahuasca in other parts of the world. This could open up access to potential treatments for conditions like PTSD and depression, for many more people around the world who may not otherwise have access to it.
And Filament Health is placing a bet on the natural products market for future psychedelic therapies, envisioning that certain individuals would choose to incorporate plant-based medical formulations instead of more pharmacological treatments when seeking trips with therapeutic benefits. To support its efforts, Filament has entered into a partnership with UCSF and are already conducting psilocybin and psilocin clinical trials together.
Cool. Filament's ayahuasca pill has raised questions concerning previous and informed consent from Indigenous organizations for the project, as well as the allocation of money for sensitive and pressing issues such as natural species conservation. Benjamin Lightburn has said that that consultations have taken place with relevant local communities in Peru. Those specifics remain confidential until research progresses. He does stress, however, that Filament recognize that there are many competing perspectives on ayahuasca study, and it is important to take these into consideration when dealing with the sacred plant. To conclude, ayahuasca has been used as part of healing ceremonies and spiritual rituals by Indigenous cultures for centuries. But now scientists are exploring ways to make these experiences more accessible and consistent by creating the ayahuasca pill. By standardizing dosing protocols and making treatment more accessible worldwide via a pill form, researchers hope that they can gain further insight into the therapeutic potential while giving those without access to traditional healers another avenue for treatment options, such as PTSD and depression. The idea is still being explored, but if successful, it can open up an exciting new possibilities for the treatment world. And like I say, you now don't have to taste the earthy tea.
Like that, it could be standardized a little bit too, as long as it's still the natural form of it, not chemicalized.
Yeah, and they're not chemicalizing it. Yeah. But I mean, that brings us to break time. So it's medication time. Time for us to have our joint session. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis educational news here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Boxcast, which is on Roku TV and Fire Stick, as well as paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
When you think of the number of unique products developed in the fields, kitchens, and labs at Legacy 420, it's hard to think that one stands out above the rest. But tell that to the thousands of people who have tried this amazing breakthrough product.
This is our Sacred Salve. This is actually our extra strength. It comes in 5 different strengths. It's all natural, all organic. It typically works within 10 to 15 minutes of putting it on. It's good for arthritis, it's good for inflammation, any kind of pain. We're very proud of it.
Sacred Salve, so easy to apply, along with soothing relief. To select a strength that's right for you, come in and talk to your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Pace Radio Network. By patients, for patients, and for those who want to know.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Let's share PACE everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
And we are back from our medication session. I'm sitting over here dancing to the music. And we are live here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Boxcast, paceradio.net, and cbgtv.com. I'm not sure what was going on with me trying to play the second half of that commercial. It came on, it went off, and then I had to go back and put it on. I did that 3 times. I'm not sure what was up, but thank you for sticking with me through my technical issues. And please, we would really appreciate your time if you took a few minutes and went to CanExpo or canexpo.ca and put in a little vote for Pace Radio under the podcast under the podcast setting. We would really appreciate that and love it very much. Thank you so much. And look, I even got prepared during the commercial, even though I was sitting here dancing. And I have the next story ready to go, which is really awesome. Usually I don't. I usually sit here and dance and forget about it. So we are all set up to head over to MSN, and we're going to take a look at an understudied psychedelic, which could be a promising new mental health treatment.
Over the past 2 decades, researchers have published study after study evaluating the therapeutic potential of psychedelics like psilocybin and LSD. The research is so promising that despite being illegal at the federal level, efforts to legalize the therapeutic use of psilocybin, a psychoactive compound in magic mushrooms, have passed in 2 states and a handful of cities. Psilocybin, DMT, LSD, and mescaline, another less spoken about psychoactive compound found in some cacti, are all considered classical psychedelics. These substances all act on a serotonin receptor called the 5-HT2A receptor. Given the similar mechanisms by which these compounds produce their effects and the plethora of promising research into other classical psychedelics, it is notable that researchers have comparatively overlooked mescaline.
Some scientists and pharmacological companies are hoping to bridge the gap in research between mescaline and other classical psychedelics, with an eye towards the broader therapeutic use of the compound. Yet city or statewide legalization, even if exclusively used for medical purposes, is significantly more fraught than it is with psilocybin or LSD. The Native American Church and other indigenous peoples have used mescaline-containing plants like peyote in cultural and spiritual practices for centuries. They are considered sacred in their culture. Widespread legalization could create increased demand for a cactus that's already somewhat threatened, potentially leaving members of the Native American Church who have a religious exemption that allows them to legally use peyote without access. Further, urban development has dramatically diminished. I'm having a hard time here the second half with my tongue working properly. The areas, furthermore, urban development has dramatically diminished the areas where peyote can be harvested in the United States. Currently, only 4 countries have the appropriate climate and conditions to harvest peyote, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the.
I wanted to hear you try that one.
I know, but no, I'm going to deny you that one, Glenn. All of them are in southern Texas. The cactus is on the International Union of Conservation of Nature red list of threatened species, a reality with significant implications for those indigenous communities to whom peyote is sacred.
So should we be using mescaline to treat mental health disorders like we're on track to do with psilocybin?
Yes.
Inverse spoke with two researchers and activists about the potential promise and pitfalls of the idea. David Nutt, a psychedelics researcher with the Center of Psychiatry at the Imperial College in London, tells Inverse one reason mescaline research has lagged behind other psychedelics is like psilocybin and LSD is because it's harder to get a hold of than the other two. Nutt is also an advisor to Neural Therapeutics, a drug discovery and development company focused on developing products and conducting research with psychoactive plants, the first of which is mescaline-containing cactus.
Huh. Sorry, I'm off of my own thought at the same time because I can go get San Pedro like really freaking easy. It's only like $10 to plant.
Wow.
But, Peter Hendricks, a clinical psychologist and addiction researcher at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, tells Inverse in that mescaline potency and side effects may also explain the relative pause of research. A rather large dose of LSD might be 300 micrograms. Oh my God, that's like so small compared to like the 80s. And a rather large dose of psilocybin might be 30 milligrams. Huh? No. I'm gonna. Oh, okay. So they're going. I'm sorry. I'm having a conversation with myself in my own head, and I apologize. My conversation is the rather large dose of psilocybin, 30 milligrams. They're talking about actually taking the psilocybin out of the plant matter, though.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the difference, and that's the conversation I had in my head. A rather large dose of mescaline would be 300 milligrams, he said. That means you need much more mescaline to achieve an experience comparable to the intensity of LSD or psilocybin, which can make it less appealing as a research subject. Further, Hendricks said, mescaline may also be more associated with nausea. If you have a choice between one compound that causes nausea and another that doesn't, which one would you choose? Well, I hate throwing up, so I know where I'm going.
Psilocybin can be associated with nausea, but not as strongly as mescaline is. Perhaps because mescaline is rapidly absorbed in the gastrointestinal tract. The psychoactive effects of mescaline are also quite prolonged. They can last up to 12 hours. That may make it less appealing as a potential therapy and could make it less likely to be covered by insurance, should it ever be approved as therapy.
There's going to be a push in the next few years to develop shorter-acting psychedelics. We already have one, Hendricks says, and the reason for that is pretty obvious. It's more likely to be reimbursed by managed care if you have an hour-long session with DMT versus a 14-hour-long session with mescaline or ayahuasca or iboga that might require an overnight stay. While Hendricks can't say definitively if above reasons explain the relative lack of clinical research into therapeutic uses of mescaline, dose, side effect, and duration of psychoactive effects are considerations that researchers investigating potential medications consider.
The lack of randomized controlled trials investigating the therapeutic effects of mescaline for certain conditions makes it difficult to say if mescaline could be an effective therapy for specific mental health disorders. Still, anecdotal evidence suggests it's worthy of further study. In 2021, an online survey of 452 self-reported mescaline users was published in the journal ACS Pharmacology and Translational Science. The survey asked them about their mescaline experience and previous mental illness diagnosis. Of the responders, 86% of the people with depression reported an improvement in their symptoms, 80% in those with anxiety, 76% with PTSD, 76% with alcohol misuse or alcohol use disorder, and 68% in drug misuse or substance use disorder.
I'm sorry, but I mean, like, those are beautiful numbers.
Yep.
You know, while self-reported, the results certainly suggest the subject is worth further exploration, and it sure is. Like, I mean, like, I haven't done peyote or San Pedro, so I haven't done mescaline, but I mean, I have done the longer-acting iboga, and my longest spirit walk on iboga was 17 hours. and it was
Wow.
beautiful. And I followed it up with DMT, and can I say the 15-minute one is better than the 17-hour one, or vice versa? No, but I find that they both work together beautifully. And if somebody's going to embark on an LSD journey or a psilocybin journey, you're still looking at 8 to 14 hours that way too. I mean, my shortest LSD journey was 12 hours. And of course back then
I think they're worried about costs. I think a lot of times here, where 14 hours.
And that's what they're looking at from a clinical point of view. Like, I mean, like, if we're going to send somebody off to do like these big doses, they need an overnight stay, they need food, they need this, they need that, they need to be looked after. Whereas if you're going for DMT, it's quite literally like day surgery. You go in, you do it, you leave. And you are capable, although they suggest having a driver. You are capable of driving afterwards, but it's better to be able to reflect and have somebody else drive. And I really, really hate to do this, but I have to cut off this story now, just simply because, we've run out of time for it, and it's a really cool story. So I really highly suggest that me, Glenn, and everybody else go back and finish reading it. It's interesting. I think that the use of what is native here in North America, being the peyote or the mescaline, the San Pedro, are important things to take a look at here. And I understand that they're going to be more costly. But I think learning what we have that was naturally here is important as well for anybody that's into the whole
results in the end.
Yeah. Those are amazing results in the end. Even if they're just self-reported results, they're amazing results in the end. So yeah, I think that they should take a better look at that. But I mean, I better stop myself from babbling and head to the next story. We're heading over to Mugglehead Magazine. Pharmala Biotech signs agreement to sell clinical grade MDMA in Australia.
Pharma Biotech Incorporated has signed an agreement drug developer after the country rescheduled the drug to be used as medicine. On Tuesday, the company announced that it had entered into a sales agreement with Myra Limited for its clinical grade GMP certified MDMA. Pharma Biotech has also submitted a trademark application. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
The company is the only exporter of clinical grade MDMA at the moment, and the only company in the world that offers EU GMP MDMA and EU GMP psilocybin.
Amira is a drug development company focused on data, clinical care, and delivering clinical insights. The company announced the expansion of its MDMA programs last week to establish a network of clinical partners, develop a supply chain for the drugs, identify GMP MDMA suppliers, and develop a phase 2B clinical trial protocol for MDMA-assisted therapy. We currently have a historic opportunity before us to not only supply customers with high-quality EU GMP API, and drug products, but also to build one of the preeminent psychedelics operations in Australia, the country leading the world with regulations to support treatment, from Pharmala Biotech COO Shane Morse says.
Pharmala has worked world-class in manufacturing product data, not only with our partners and clinicians, but with the TGA in future meetings. Pharmala's drug API and GMP certified is available to companies or people who have permission to use it for research or as an exception. The company can also export it to be used by clinical trial practitioners globally, subject to the insurance, the issuance of import and export permits.
Pharmala's research and development unit has also begun preclinical research into 2 patented novel chemical entities, NCEs, based on MDXS class molecules, with proof of concept research currently being done at the University of Kansas Medical School. While this is a nascent industry, we are committed to responsibly supplying our customers as they develop operational capacity, says Kaddish. adding that the company has already been running 3 different clinical trials for its Laneo MDMA molecule.
And we're very pleased that just 10 days after the change was announced, we're in advanced discussions with a number of interested parties and have already closed a new purchase order. In February 3rd, the Australian Government Therapeutic Goods Administration announced it will allow psychiatrists to prescribe MDMA for post-traumatic stress disorder and psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression. The changes will be effective as of July this year, and some companies have started to look at importing MDMA into the country.
I like that I get to read this one. Cresco Pharma Limited, so their subsidiary Hallucinex Life Sciences Incorporated, which is located here in lovely Windsor, Nova Scotia, about a 2-minute walk from my back door, announced last week it may register its synthetic psilocybin formulation for the Australian market following recent regulatory changes. I was almost in Cresco's Hallucinex's. They did a study here in Windsor, and I was supposed to be part of it, but then I ended up going for I couldn't wait for it. My mental health couldn't wait, and I went for iboga, and of course that got me kicked out of the study. And they were a little bit upset about that because I came with my psychiatrist completely approved of it and was really excited for it, and I came with that, and I was the only patient coming with.
That's too bad. I wish you had been in that study because we get firsthand knowledge then.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to talk about it until everything came out. But
Okay.
everything I saw already, I can talk about, and I like that the way that this company is working. They were, that's how I learned about the fact that they can extract the psilocin from the psilocybin from the mushroom, so you don't have to eat the whole mushroom. You just have to take a couple of pills which contain the psilocybin from those mushrooms, and that's how they were going to dose us. They were going to do 2 doses, a handshake dose and then a full dose. It was really cool the way they're doing it. They have an actual, the person heading it up. I mean, she's not just a nurse. She's not just a therapist, but she is a trained shaman since the age of 9.
Wow.
So, I mean, yeah, like they really have gone above and beyond with making sure they have the right people there, and they have the right people there. I've learned that firsthand, and it's just really, really cool.
I do love their name too.
Yeah, Hallucinex.
Yeah.
They are currently running a phase 2 clinical trial to test psilocybin as a treatment for PTSD. I was supposed to be part of phase 1, which expects will provide a strong foundation for registering the company's Hallucinex branded synthetic psilocybin. Well, I hope they don't go that far, but product as a potential treatment option in Canada and Australia. The company is already a licensed psilocybin supplier under Health Canada's Special Access Program here in Canada. And like I said, they really are doing it the right way.
Vancouver-based Optimi Health Corp has submitted a clinical trial application after successfully producing the first batch of patented MDMA variety, Opti MHCL. Opti received permission from Health Canada to manufacture and distribute MDMA in August of last year. Optimi said the new drug will potentially be used for clinical studies and treating patients authorized to access the psychedelic through Health Canada's Special Access Program and Australia's new authorized prescriber screen.
Well, it's exciting that everybody's doing this. I hope that they get the SAT program working better, because I've heard, very little for good. They're supposed to be a very quick turnaround. I'm not hearing quick turnarounds. There are people that should have it that haven't heard back in months. So I hope that they get that up and running better, because I'm sure it's just I'm hoping it's just technical issues, and that they get working better.
Okay.
But on to the next story. This one caught both of our eye. Coming to us from Ganjapreneur, it's Twitter is now going to allow cannabis ads on the platform.
Twitter is allowing the advertising of cannabis products on its platform, marking a departure for the social media giant's old rules for the industry, which mostly barred cannabis ads. Under the rules, businesses can only sell topical hemp-derived CBD products on the site, but can advertise all cannabis products as long as advertisers are licensed by the appropriate authorities and pre-authorized by Twitter. The update rules require that cannabis advertisers only target jurisdictions in which they are licensed to promote these products or services online. And note that advertisers are responsible for complying with all applicable laws, rules, regulations, and advertising guidelines, and may not target customers under the age of 21.
Okay. Yeah. So as long as you're an LP and then you come begging for our permission and then you follow. Anyway, any advertisement for cannabis, including CBD, content that is allowed, subject to the above restrictions, must, in addition, as I'm sitting here rolling my eyes, not appeal to minors in the creative and landing pages, must be age granted, and sales must be age verified. Not use characters, sports persons, celebrities, or image icons appealing to minors. Not use minors or pregnant women as models in advertising. Not make claims of efficiency or health benefits. Not make false misleading claims. Not show depiction of cannabis product use. Not depict people using or under the influence. Not encourage transport across state lines.
Wow, that's a lot of rules. The policy also outlines cannabis rules for Canadian cannabis companies, requiring that the companies are licensed by Health Canada, may only promote informational or brand preference content, may not target jurisdictions in which they are licensed to promote these products or services online. And are responsible for complying with all laws and regulations. In general, advertisers are prohibited from promoting cannabis content
by communicating information about cannabis price or distribution, by doing so in a manner that there are reasonable grounds to believe could be appealing to young persons under the age of 18, by means of testimonial or endorsement, however displayed or communicated, by means of depiction of a person, character, or animal, whether real or fictional.
Wow.
Or by presenting cannabis or any of its brand elements in a manner that associates it or the brand element or evokes positive or negative emotions about or image of a way of life, such as one that includes glamour, recreation, excitement, vitality, risk, or daring. What?
Yeah, you're almost banned from advertising it. No matter what you do, you can't do anything. It's crazy.
The company indicated. Oh, you go ahead.
Sorry, the company indicated that its updated cannabis policies do not allow advertisements for illegal drugs, recreational and herbal drugs, accessories associated with drug use, drug dispensaries, and depictions of hard drug use. They pretty well banned everything. It makes no sense. They're not allowing advertisers to advertise, basically. Have you ever seen a beer commercial while everybody's sitting around sad, not drinking? They're all drinking beer and they're having fun. I don't know how you advertise anything.
No, actually, they're not allowed to drink it. They're allowed to have their cup of beer, and they're allowed to talk to you, but they're not actually allowed to put it to their mouth and take a drink during a commercial.
Well, you can't have a joint in your hand and smile.
No, I mean, but yeah, exactly. You can. Anyway, on to our last story, because this is another one that can probably keep us going for quite a while. So we'll just smile and say, okay, they're fools, and we'll head over to the fresh toast side effects of cannabis edibles and what you can do to lessen them.
If you have been on cannabis scenes you're probably very familiar with the brownie. What started out as a means to primarily conceal the use of cannabis has quickly grown into a preferred method of consumption. Though brownies are the parent edible, creativity and innovation has led to a host of other fun and convenient edibles. Taking edibles is easy, but is it safe? Here are some side effects that you might experience after taking edibles and what you can do about them.
What are cannabis edibles? Also known simply as edibles. Cannabis edibles are food products which are cannabis infused. By the jumpins, we're just repeating ourselves here. When referring to cannabis, what instantly comes to mind is the smokable pot. Edibles differ from those both by the method of consumption and effects. Yeah, you eat it.
Edibles are now found in a vast number of forms, from baked goods to sweets to basic foods. Some high-class hotels even offer 5-star gourmet meals infused with cannabis. The most common forms of edibles are in the form of baked goods, candies, gummies, chocolate, lozenges, and beverages.
Edibles could be prepared at home or purchased from the cannabis dispensary when made commercially. At home, THC is mostly extracted. Ooh, I couldn't get that id at the end. In the form of butter or oils, maybe I had too many edibles, which are then used to cook or directly spread onto food. This is where baked edibles such as brownies and cookies are made.
Commercial edibles span from gummies to lozenges to chocolate and beverages. What is most common about all edibles is that they are the easiest method to consume cannabis. What's more, they are fun and enjoyable to take.
They are. They're so yummy. And herein lies the issue. One might be tempted to think they are very harmless, and they can be if used correctly. However, many times they can cause a myriad of side effects. Yeah, I've greened out.
And what we have discussed, the most common method of consuming cannabis is through smoking, either a joint or vaping. When a joint is burnt, it releases the cannabinoids, which you then inhale into your lungs. THC and the other cannabinoids then enter your bloodstream and travel to the rest of your body, at which point you will feel their effects. However, when you smoke cannabis, you end up inhaling more than the cannabinoids. You might also inhale paper, plant matter, and other substances that could be potentially carcinogenic.
Yeah, we skipped down a couple of paragraphs here. We see they list off some of the differences between the effects of edibles and smokables. The speed in which it hits. Like, I mean, when you're smoking, if you've got a creeper, 5 minutes max, and you've got the, you've got the effect of the cannabis. If you eat it, sometimes it can take a couple hours. Potency. Yeah. Some of the studies show that the edibles have less bioavailability than inhaled cannabis, which means your body ends up using, a fraction of the ingested cannabis, and the rest is lost to the process of digestion. But I know a lot of people that they can smoke me under the table, but they can't eat 5 milligrams. Do you know what I mean? Effects are way different from smoking to eating. Don't ever fool yourself that you're going to eat something and it's going to affect you the way it does a joint. They're completely different. Duration is completely different. A joint will last you, if you're really, really lucky, 2 or 3 hours. Edibles, 8 hours. 8 hours at least, if not for some people. I know somebody that ate 100 milligrams and 2.5 days later, they were still high. So it's completely different.
Wow.
Yeah. And, so, we go down further and, Glenn can tell you about some of the short-term effects that are listed here. I know I'm making you scroll. I apologize. We're just running out of time.
Short-term effects: dry mouth, red bloodshot eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Munchies, anxiety, paranoia.
We're out of time, right?
Yeah, we are. If you go down a little bit further, it gives you a few more longer term effects. Y'all should read this, and then I should get quickly on the closing and say that that's our PACE News report. And I'm really sorry that we talked our way through that. That's a really great story. From the legacy420.com news desk for today, February 16th. And for our buds at Campbellford Lifestyle Shop and legacy420.com, in closing, we'd like to say thank you for watching and listening. Catch our next broadcast with Kelly and Al, Reverend Kelly and Al, on Monday. And I'm not going to come up with a date that fast. I'm going to tell you all to have a really, really great weekend. We will see you next week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Glenn.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.